There is a fable about a species of winter moth whose lifespan does not exceed 30 days. They are called January moths, and their reality is a world of white snow, trees without green leaves, cold temperatures, and cruel winds. They are mysteriously visited by a summer moth, a lone survivor of a past time who tells them of a world of green leaves, bright warm sunlight, soft breezes, and the sounds of singing birds, a paradise of comfort and plenty. The winter moths listen attentively, but they do not believe. In the end, they dismiss his declarations as pure folly, as superstition, as the product of an uncontrolled and potentially dangerous imagination. All moths, after all, know that trees are dark brown in color and have no leaves, that the world is white, gray, and black, not green and brown, that the ground is not covered with green and interspersed with flowers of many colors, but is, in fact, covered with white. There is, I suspect, a little of the winter moth in all of us. We have been taught certain cultural myths that we accept as the truth. The myth of Newtonian scientific thought, the myth of the infallibility of Aristotle reasoning, the myth that if we cannot see, touch, hear, smell, or taste something, it doesn't exist. The myth that there is animate matter and inanimate matter. The myth that there is man and there is a distinctly separate nature, and that man's progress is measured in terms of triumph over nature. It was not so very long ago when the myth that the earth is the center of the universe was accepted by all of the Western world, until a summer moth proved otherwise. And today the Flat Earth Society contains less than 100 members, some 5 centuries after Columbus. As a student of Western music, I was taught 4 myths about the music of Western culture. First, that the music of Bach, Mozart, Haydn, and Beethoven, and Brahms is the mainstream of music. Second, that Western music is the most highly developed music in the world because it is the only music to have developed harmony. Third, that Western music has reached its ultimate source of perfection. And fourth, Western art music is of greater worth than Western folk or popular music. And the older the art music, the greater is its worth. These 4 myths have been so thoroughly perpetuated by the 17th, 18th, and 19th century aristocracy and the academic establishment which it spawned that they are accepted as unalterable truth by a large segment of our culture. When Columbus returned to Spain from the New World, the intellectual establishment of Europe began to examine the validity of the flat earth myth and concluded that it was no longer compatible with the facts. The flat earth myth did not originate on the basis of truth, but rather it was founded on ignorance of the truth. The 4 myths of music, themselves products of the 19th century salons and music conservatories, are opinions at best. I believe they are based on ignorance. It is not my purpose to prove the falsehood of these myths, for that is essentially a negative task. Rather, I prefer to play the role of a summer moth by suggesting that there is far more substance to the study of music than harmony, counterpoint, and to developing proficiency on a musical instrument, as important as these may be. And I further suggest that there is more purpose to the practice of music than mere entertainment, regardless of the depth of musical understanding involved. It is my belief that the mainstream of music is embodied in the music of the non-Western world, not in terms of style, although there are certain common factors, but in terms of philosophy and intent. That Western music once shared this philosophy but has been diverted in the last 700 years of its development into an interesting and unique side stream. That this development, whose roots lie in the medieval period, has come to an end, and that Western music is about to re-enter the mainstream of world music. That the basis of the mainstream of world music lies in the knowledge of the ancients who inhabited the earth, practiced music, and imparted their knowledge to the peoples of the earth thousands of years ago. These ancient practitioners of music knew far more about the nature of sound and its use than we do today. The music of the ancients was practiced as a spiritual discipline, an outer manifestation of an inner, unheard, and universal music with which they had intimate knowledge. These ancient practitioners were, in fact, a brotherhood of musician priests, for whom the practice of music was connected to the study of astronomy, mathematics, astrology, the universal energy, form, proportion, and balance. The ultimate purpose of the practice of music was as a means of healing through its ability to integrate the energy of the human body, mind, and electromagnetic field, and to harmonize this energy with the rhythms of the earth and the heavenly bodies. The laws of the practice of music by these ancients were governed to accomplish this purpose. It is the destiny of future generations of musicians to rediscover these laws and to develop a practice of music which will integrate, harmonize, and heal by means of a deeper understanding of vibration and its effect upon the body, mind, and soul of mankind. Deep within the caves of the Three Brothers is found a painting which dates from 15,000 BC. It depicts a man clothed in bison skins, his head adorned with two horns, and he wears an animal mask. The posture suggests that he is dancing and playing a musical bow. Is he, the primitive ancestor, motivated by fear and superstition as we have been led to believe? Or might he be, in fact, a more recent inheritor of an ancient civilization whose knowledge of the power of sound as a healing force was far greater than our own? Can it be that our own period of modern history, from 10,000 BC until today, might be likened to the age of the winter moth? Was there on Earth an earlier summer moth period, a time of ancient and highly developed civilizations, long since lost and forgotten? Among the Navajo Indians, there is a legend of ancient shaman who had the power to create sand paintings by merely speaking to the sand. Ethiopians tell of a time when the first humans could only sing like the birds or the breeze, but eventually forgot the melodies and had to resort to the speaking of words. Legends found in Mexico and Peru speak of ancient scientists of sound who could split massive stones into precise blocks with sound alone and resonate them into place. In this way, according to the legend, were the temples of Uxmal and Machu Picchu built. The Mayans, the ancient Hindus, and Tibetan Buddhists recognized that each person has his or her own resonating frequency, which, when sounded, could return an ailing individual to internal harmony. In ancient China, the new emperor called together his musicians and astrologers, both of whom are members of the Bureau of Weights and Measures, and commands them to determine the exact length of the imperial pipes in order to ensure that the music played during his or her reign will be in accord with the heavenly bodies. In the Greek epic, the Odyssey, the flow of blood from the wounds of Ulysses is stopped by the singing of Autolycus. Similarly, among the Winnebago and the Sioux, shaman who have obtained their power from the bear spirits are able to heal wounds with their songs. In the evening, the ancient Greek scientist Pythagoras frees the minds of his individuals from the cares of the day by playing music which will calm their minds and produce deep sleep and prophetic dreams. In the morning, he banishes the lingering effects of sleep by playing stimulating melodies and rhythms. The legendary Orpheus can soothe the beasts of the forest and influence the gods by the power of song alone. Among the ancient Hebrews, all prophets foretold the future through chanting, and Miriam, the sister of Moses, is said to have had immense visionary powers which were conveyed through chanting. The young American Indian of the plains and Northwest fasts and meditates for 4 days and nights, hoping for a vision of an animal who will teach him a song that will protect him from harm for the duration of his life. Indian shaman cure disease and mental anguish by coaxing the evil spirits into leaving their victim through the power of chanting. In Bali, in Africa, in the South Sea Islands, and in the Arctic, entire villages sing and dance themselves into a state of ecstasy and obtain visions, while in Japan, mendicant monks traverse the island on foot, wear a basket over their heads, and play the shakuhachi in the belief that they can reach enlightenment through music. In the ancient kingdoms of Assyria, Babylonia, Sumeria, and Egypt, musicians are priests who reside at the temples, calculate the calendar, take astrological measurements of the heavenly bodies, and supervise all ceremonies. To the ancient Hebrews and early Christians, the singing of psalms was believed to have healing power. The Talmud mentions a song which, when sung, is reported to protect one from epidemics. In the Old Testament, King Saul's insanity is cured overnight by the power of David's harp. These shaman, priests, prophets, and ancient scientists of sound all had one philosophical concept in common: that music represented a microcosm of the order of the universe and followed cosmological laws, and that through the practice of music, one could better understand these laws as well as the intelligence behind them. The etherical quality of music was recognized as a miniature of the etherical substance which filled the vast spaces of the cosmos within which the celestial bodies moved. The rhythm of music reflected the rhythmic movement of galaxies, of stars and planets, of the sun and the moon, and which was manifested on earth in the cycle of seasons, days and nights, high and low tides of the sea, and the eternal rhythms of the body, respiration, heartbeat, digestion, the rhythm of birth and death of cells. Is it any wonder that astrologers, astronomers, healers, and musicians were so closely connected? The rapid oscillation of vibration, which manifested in the audio plane as sound, was seen as the primary energy force of the universe which caused the movement of planets, stars, and galaxies, of light and heat rays traversing the interstellar spaces, and of the energy of the sun bringing life to the planet Earth. This energy force could be found in all objects on Earth, both animate and inanimate, in the form of molecules consisting of atoms, which in their varying intensities are to be found in all substances of the Earth. Energy, the life force, was seen as the only substance that could not be destroyed, only transformed. Music, as a form of energy, could bring about a harmony within the body and mind of man to man, and ultimately with the harmony of the heavenly bodies. Thus music was seen as the factor which brought about harmony from individual cell to the entire organism, the fluidity of energy, changing and merging with energy, the primordial force of the universe. Among many cultures, human music was thought of as a mirror of the cosmic music. The Chinese distinguished between two musics, the music of heaven and the music of earth. The Hindus call it struck sound and unstruck sound, while the early Christians referred to musica humana and musica universalia. The Hindus call this unstruck sound nada, and in various Sanskrit writings one frequently finds the phrase nada Brahma, sound is God. Japanese writings call it the soundless sound, and in Zen writings of the Renzai sect one encounters enigmatic questions such as, what is the sound of one hand clapping? The solution of which leads one into experiencing the soundless sound. Or one may receive instructions such as, intone a sound as Om slowly. The sound enters soundfulness, so do you. Further to the west, in the area of the Eastern Mediterranean, one finds evidence of a fully developed concept of the harmony of the spheres as early as the ancient Sumerian civilization, which was passed on to the Babylonians, and through the Babylonians to the Assyrians. References to the harmony of the spheres is found among Egyptian writings of both the Old and Middle Kingdoms. These writings were transmitted to the Greeks through Pythagoras, who lived around 700 BC, and to the Hebrews. Early Christian scholars, Boethius in particular, found much of interest in the concept to the extent that we find references to the harmony of the spheres throughout the medieval and Renaissance periods. The harmony of the spheres refers to the concept that, in the words of the Greek philosopher Aristides, every solid body creates in flight a certain sound. Thus also the stars make the ether to vibrate, although our ears are too incomplete to hear these sounds. The concept of the harmony of the spheres, which during the medieval and early Renaissance periods so heavily influenced the music of Europe, has its roots in the musical practice and philosophy of the ancient Sumerians. As late as 1618, the famous astronomer Johannes Kepler completed his final treatise, which was devoted to the measurement of the exact musical intervals generated by the movements of the planets. This treatise was called The Harmonies of the World. The culture of China, highly developed by 700 BC, spread southward to areas of Tibet, Burma, Thailand, Malaya, Vietnam, northward to Mongolia, eastward to Manchuria, Korea, and Japan. The culture of India spread to the area of Pakistan, Nepal, Kashmir, and into the islands of Indonesia. The cultures of the Eastern Mediterranean Sea spread westward to Turkey, Greece, Rome, the countries of Europe, and with the spread of the Muslim religion, the area of northern Africa. To the east, the Arab Peninsula and Persia. Thus, by 1000 AD, the concept of the harmony of the spheres, under its many names, was found from the western tip of Europe to the easternmost tip of Japan, three cultures whose origins are obscured in the mists of prehistory and widely separated geographically, but who developed the same religious and philosophical attitudes toward their music, and who wrote extensively about them. The remainder of the inhabited world, northern Europe and Asia, the continent of Australia, southern Africa, and South Sea Islands, consisted of hundreds of smaller cultural units. A few of them, if myths and legends can be trusted, possessed a highly sophisticated knowledge of sound, but all of them attributed to music magical healing powers which were administered by the shaman of the tribe for the benefit of the people. All of them, in their legends, attributed divine origin to music, the result of a direct intervention by the gods for the benefit of humanity. In the beginning was the Word, a sound, vibration, energy, the mystical force which moves the universe and all within. Sound permeates the galaxies, the stars, our sun, the planets, the atmosphere of our earth, and all things on and in the earth, not just figuratively, but in a very real sense. This music of the universe resonates around and within us, merging spirit with matter. It vibrates through us, for we are not a solid mass as we once believed. It merges with the spiritual and corporal energy within and around our bodies, connecting us to one another, to the plants and animals around us, to the soil beneath our feet, and to the farthest star of the farthest galaxy. And the music we make is but a reflection of that universal music which we can all hear within the stillness in the center of our minds. Right now, close your ears with your fingers, and close your eyes too, from all sounds coming in from the environment. Inside your skin is a virtual symphony of sound, which is always constant, yet always changing. There is a scientific explanation for many of these sounds. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your nervous system, your blood. Yet there is more meaning to these sounds than the mere identification of their source, just as there is more meaning to the sound of a violin than its identification. And just as the sound of each orchestra is different, so too are the sounds of your inner orchestra a unique expression of your inner environment. And beyond these immediate sounds, if you listen carefully, is a quieter landscape of sound, a microcosm of the universal music, the harmony of the spheres, the soundless sound, nada. The universe consists of billions of solid and semi-solid moving bodies, stars, planets, meteors, comets, and so forth, which, although separated by millions of light years, are connected to each other by molecules of hydrogen and helium, the two simplest atoms. Crisscrossing the vast spaces of the universe are an infinite number of traveling waveforms, which may vary in length from millions of miles from trough to trough, to wavelengths a millionth of an inch long, and which may vibrate from 1 cycle per hour to millions of cycles per second. The longer the wave, measured in inches, feet, or miles, the slower the vibration rate. Those waveforms which vibrate in the spectrum of 12 to 20,000 cycles per second, and which reach the Earth's atmosphere, are perceived by humans as sound, and are registered in the brain as audio frequencies. Higher frequencies are perceived as light or heat. Still higher frequencies, although they are present in our atmosphere, are not perceived consciously, yet we are affected by them. It is not possible to determine the total effect of these waveforms on the Earth's surface, or to know how we are affected by them. It can only be assumed that we are constantly being bombarded by these waves, and that beyond the limits of our sensory nerves to detect them, the effects of these waveforms are registered somewhere in our physical and psychic levels, as well as influencing the electromagnetic field that surrounds each of us. It is important to realize that vibration is a physical force that moves out from its source by pushing molecules in its path. It is an energy source which can be felt by the total organism of all living beings. This is particularly true with regard to lower rates of vibration, such as those which register in the brain as sound. Sound is not only heard, it is also felt in every portion of our body, not just the ears. Sound affects us on the mental, the spiritual, and physical planes. It can make us feel good on any of these planes. It can cure, or it can heal. It can also make us ill, and ultimately, it has the power to destroy. As sound enters each individual environment, it also causes changes in the electromagnetic field that surrounds us. Sound, because it is a strong physical force, has an effect on every cell of every organ, since our physical cells consist of various densities of molecules. Because over 80% of these molecules are water, And water being a stronger carrier of sound waves than air, it does not stretch the imagination greatly to appreciate the effect of sound on our physical body. We, as individual representatives of the universal life force, are also in a continual vibrational state, and therefore in a state of continual change from moment to moment. We are constantly emitting vibrations from within our physical body and outward to influence our electromagnetic field. Beyond the boundaries of this field, we affect the environment around us, and we affect all living beings within our immediate environment. But the vibrations we send forth will influence the electromagnetic fields of those around us, plants or animals. If we emit vibrational patterns of peace, the atmosphere of our environment will be in harmony. To summarize, then, it is important to realize that there is always a two-way exchange that is constantly at work. Vibrations of various frequencies are always seeking to enter your individual environment, and your vibrations are seeking to move outward from within. But there is one additional fact that is of vital importance. Several inches beyond the physical boundaries of your body, your electromagnetic field, itself a composite of your emitting frequencies and the electromagnetic field of the earth, meet. This process is called interference. The resulting phenomenon is referred to as the aura. The aura is the result of the interference pattern that occurs when your electromagnetic field mixes with the Earth's. For the vibrational patterns that we transmit are the result of our internal vibrations, which in turn are themselves influenced by the relative harmony or disharmony of our internal organs and of our emotional and thinking states. Each organ, itself a composite of many cells, has its own frequency rate. When each organ vibrates at its natural frequency, then the internal organs are in harmony with each other. There are many factors which may cause one or more organs to be in disharmony, but for the purposes of sound and healing, the subtle relationship of emotions and thought patterns cannot be ignored. For emotions are themselves frequency vibrations which can affect the organs. Thought forms are also electromagnetic waveforms which produce frequencies. So the first and most important concept, which forms the basis of any work that involves sound, music and healing, or altered states, is that the mind, emotions, and internal organs are not separate entities, but must in fact work in harmony with each other. For if any one is in disharmony, the others will also be. There is no split between spirit and matter, for both are vibration, and there is no split between mind and body in the healthy individual. The value of music as a healing agent is that it unifies mind and body, spirit and matter, through its vibrational patterns. I would like to emphasize what should now be clear. The subject of healing with sound and music is extraordinarily complex and not at all as simple as some writers would have you believe. We are engaged in the process of rediscovering an ancient knowledge that for centuries was passed from one initiate to another by oral means. It is knowledge that has been lost to us in our culture for hundreds of years. Writings are all too few, and most are much too general to be of any great use. We must proceed slowly and carefully by trial and error, sharing our discoveries as we go. Hasty answers may lead us astray. I caution you about many who profess to have discovered the answers. Playing a record of Schubert's Ave Maria or a Beethoven symphony may be an artistic activity. It may even be therapeutic, but it is not healing as the ancients practiced it. I am convinced that the true teachings will be revealed to us if we are patient, cautious, and motivated by a sincere desire to learn for the benefit of humanity through love. One of the legacies of the impact of non-Western music has had on us is a renewed interest in examining the ability of music to alter mind states. In the last 15 years, There have been some important studies and discoveries, and, alas, much nonsense made available. What has been established is that music does possess the ability to alter one's mind state. Music as diversion, or music as entertainment, were not concepts which were central or even acknowledged by the ancient musical practitioners. For the two original purposes of music were for healing and for union. Union of individual with group in order to achieve a common purpose, or union with an acknowledged higher power. In other words, the basic purpose of music was to alter the mind state for assurance of self or group survival. Of the 20 mind states established by Stanley Krippner, 6 seem to be directly influenced by music. They are rapture, meditative, trance, daydreaming, expanded, and then normal waking state. It is safe to assume that the listener enters into the experience of music in a normal waking state. One exception being when an altered state already exists as the result of drug inducement or concentration. If the listener becomes involved with the music, he or she enters the next level of consciousness, the expanded state. The listener may then enter the daydreaming state with its characteristic visual images, the level of fantasizing to music. Many listeners, however, bypass this state and enter a trance state or a meditative state. The difference most likely lies in the type of music selected, a point to which I will return shortly. In some cases, the listener may enter the state of rapture, a heightened religious state which occurs just prior to union with the God force. This is pure hypothesis and rather simplistic, but one which may be useful in attempting to sort out the complexities of this question and to establish a viable objective approach. However, there may not be a purely objective approach, only a subjective one, which may be objectively arrived at. Indeed, we may look to the realm of metaphysics and cultural anthropology for some of our answers. All music alters our consciousness in one way or another. It does so because music affects us mentally and emotionally by altering our perception of time. Music alters our sense of time because it possesses the ability to alter our rate of breathing, our heartbeat, blood pressure, and to quiet abstract thinking. Of the 4 basic materials of music, sound, silence, time, and space, it is the element of time that is the most important. In general terms, there are basically 2 types of time: virtual time, which is represented by the clock, or in music by the beat, and experiential time, which is the way we as individuals experience time through our facility of memory. It is my belief that experiential time exists because we undergo tensions and their resolutions, which are grouped by our memory into linear sequences, which are called events or disturbances. A disturbance or an event might be a thought, an emotion, or an external event such as a sound. These events or disturbances cause tension, both physical and psychological, followed by resolution or return to equilibrium, which is then recorded in the memory. The rate at which events take place influence our perception of time. The faster the rate, the faster our sense of time, because there is less time between events. The slower the rate of events, the slower is our perception of time, because our mind has more time to experience the events, their resolution, and the space between. When no event or disturbance occurs, the effect is the experience of cessation of time. It is important to remember, however, that we very rarely experience this condition except during very deep meditation. We cannot experience this condition through music, since music consists of sound events. However, certain types of music can point us in the right direction. Music, then, manipulates our perception of experiential time through the use of sound events. A single note is considered to be one sound event. The slower the rate of each sound, the slower is our sense of time. The slower our sense of time, the deeper is our level of relaxation. The deeper our level of relaxation, the slower becomes our breathing and pulse rate. When these events cannot be measured against virtual time, that is, when an equal space continuing pulse is absent, as may be demonstrated in the opening section of an Indian raga, we may enter the meditative state as we concentrate on each sound moment by moment. At the other extreme, however, events may take place at such a rapid rate that each event blurs into the next, so that each separate event and its resolution cannot be experienced. After the first event, one experiences an increase of tension as the mind is frustrated in its attempts to restore equilibrium. When this occurs in conjunction with a rapid music pulse, one may enter a trance state. Trance is induced, in contrast to a meditative state, when a rhythmic pattern is repeated against an easily perceivable beat. But the effect of both methods is basically the same, and both lead to mystical experiences. The first is meditation, attention to ever slower events. The second is trance, increasing movement to the point of disorientation of perception. Both result in a cessation of time perception, and both can be induced through music. Music, then, is first perceived by us in our normal waking state. As we allow ourselves to be drawn into the flow of the sounds, our emotions and thought processes are quieted. Our awareness becomes restricted by the sounds as we enter an expanded awareness characterized by a lowered sensory threshold. As the music continues, we then enter the meditative state or the trance state. We may reach the state of ecstasy as we approach union with the God Force. In listening to music, the proper preparation is of the utmost importance. Music is born out of silence, therefore we begin with silence. I suggest that before listening to music, you lie down on your back, close your eyes, and take time to center yourself within silence itself. Allow your breathing to become slower, deeper, and without constriction. This will bring the relaxation that will allow you to immerse yourself in the music more fully. Imagine that your ears are expanding, becoming large, clear channels in the side of your head, channels that lengthen through your body and into your feet. Think of music as something more than pleasant auditory sensations, that music is nourishment for the soul. As the music begins, bring your total concentration to the sounds and to the silences between. Soon, you will pass beyond listening to sounds to total experiencing of sound. Merging with the sound, there will be no longer a listener, only sound. In selecting music that may lead us to a meditative state, we face an extremely complex situation because so much cultural and personal conditioning is involved. I eliminate from consideration songs containing words in our native language, not chants, but popular and commercial songs. I do so for two reasons. First, they tend to be short, generally 5 minutes or less. A series of short songs does not generally have the sustained effect which we require. Second, because we tend to listen more to the meaning of the words rather than the music, and words tend to keep us on a level that is lower than the etheric plane which is possible to experience through sound alone. Words, after all, are cultural inventions, which are for the communication of ideas. We want to go beyond the realm of ideas. It is better to think in terms of being bathed in sound, or of undertaking an inward journey. We are, in fact, being massaged and resonated by sound. Such an experience requires a long period of time to unfold. gradually open for the experience. 15 minutes of sustained music is a minimum. The vibrations of the music need time if they are to regulate and harmonize our vibrational fields and internal processes. It has been my experience that the music which is most useful for altering mind states contains some of these characteristics: slow moving, with either no beat or a very slow beat. Use of long drones is found in the music of India or of Tibet. Periods of silence, such as found in Japanese shakuhachi music. The sound material is either slow-moving sound masses, such as one finds in some electronic music, or slowly evolving melodic lines with a tonal center, such as one finds in various types of Eastern chant. The use of harmony tends to be minimal or non-existing. By far, the most powerful single sound source is the voice itself, especially in chant, or when words are either in a language we do not understand or is no longer used. Such music slows our mental process, calms our emotions, nourishes the spirit, and balances our electromagnetic fields, bringing healing to our physical bodies. The use of music to induce fantasy may be considered an altered state and has some therapeutic value, but the danger is that one may become so attached to the visions that there will be a reluctance to go beyond them. In experiencing these visions, the listener is removed further from the music as he or she becomes more involved with the fantasy. Thus used, music becomes merely a background, inducing and shaping the vision. The fact that a group of people may listen to the same music at the same time and each experience a different fantasy leads me to conclude that such fantasies are fabrications of the unconscious mind and may, in fact, be a manifestation of the ego's effort to protect itself from being dissolved into, through, and beyond the music. The ultimate goal of music is to lead the listener to meditation and to union with the timelessness of the Supreme Force. It is, therefore, one of the paths to enlightenment. The essence of meditation is nowness. Through meditation, one experiences the moment by concentrating on the inhalation of the breath, or some portion of the body, or a mantra as in chanting, or upon pure sound as in music. One merges with the object of concentration until there is no distinction between breathing and breather, feeling and feeler, chanting and chanter, hearing and hearer. By total concentration on the sound, moment by moment, and to the silences between, one passes beyond listening to sound to a state of total experiencing of sound. In the end, there is no listener, only sound. Thus music has the power to quiet our incessantly chattering minds, to free it from the endless stream of words that forever separate us from direct experience of that which is perceived. In music, the mystical state occurs when, after merging with the sound, the spirit passes through the sound, as if the silences between the sounds have widened into chasms, and beyond the sound. On the other side of sound, the point to which all music aspires, one experiences the soundless sound, the state where sound becomes silence, and silence becomes sound, and they merge together. In closing, I would like to share this prophecy with you. The music of the New Age will be the result of a perfect integration of body, mind, and spirit. For the music of the New Age will originate in the processes of the body, will be aesthetically organized by the intellect, and will be spiritually cleansing. I see the potential of music fully realized as a manifestation of universal life forces with the power to heal. Music which draws upon the natural sounds of earth and the music of past generations of the people of the earth. I see the establishment of music houses of continuous sound, where we may go at any time to refresh ourselves by listening to and participating in the music we may find there. I see generations of musicians residing in these houses, musicians who are extensively trained in the healing and musical arts, who weave continuous threads in a tapestry of eternal music. So it is that the music for the New Age is nothing else but the most ancient music practiced on this earth many thousands of years ago, which we are now beginning to rediscover in the closing years of this century. Do not despair that we have not yet arrived at that place, for the work has begun. There are teachers among us now, and soon there will be schools where we can learn the power of sound and experience the creative force that lies within each of us. The lost and the future tradition of music is one. Ours is the joy of that discovery. The healers through sound, even now, are awaiting their time.